You know, I've been hearing a lot of talk lately about how video games just don't hit the same anymore. Video games just aren't that fun anymore. Movies aren't that good anymore. Music is not that great anymore either. And I thought I'd talk today for a little bit about why that is and share a perspective that I don't think a lot of people are addressing. I think it's fair to say that a lot of media out there is maybe not up to par with what it was in the late 90s, early 2000s in terms of maybe just straight quality, right? A lot of great games and music and movies and TV shows came out in that period. And if you would like to argue that the content we get these days just isn't quite as good on average, perhaps you have a point. Perhaps objectively the content isn't quite as good on average. Music is a lot of degenerate mumble rap that promotes and glorifies drugs and violence. It doesn't even really sound that great. A lot of the TV shows and even games coming out these days like to sneak subliminal and oftentimes not even so subliminal messages in, and a lot of the times it seems like the pushing of certain agendas in games and movies has taken over the priority of the directors and developers over the actual quality of the product, right? But I'd like to explore a more personal side of this phenomenon that I've been hearing about, this dissatisfaction lately with games and this thought that games aren't as fun anymore. And personally, I've felt this myself. And, you know, I love video games. I always have. Since I was a little kid, I played games on my Super Nintendo. My dad got me that system, and absolutely it changed my life. I became obsessed with gaming to a degree, and a lot of my free time went towards it. And there was sort of this golden era, I would say, of my life, of myself enjoying video games, that I would say was from like the Super Nintendo to the Xbox 360, PS3 sort of days. That was probably like the last time I really absolutely was enthralled with gaming on a regular basis and could play with this sort of reckless abandon where nothing else would cross my mind. Before I began to feel what I believe many people are feeling these days, and that is just that I don't know if this is the responsible way to be spending my time. I'll reiterate that. The time where I first began to game without feeling fully immersed was probably around late high school, where I began to consciously think, although for the most part I ignored it, I don't know if this is really the best way I should be spending my time. And I know that that's not what a lot of you want to hear. I know it's not what I wanted to hear or think. And like I said, I ignored that thought quite a bit for a long, long time. But the truth is that at some point around that late high school time, my grades in school began to suffer because I was just prioritizing gaming and smoking and whatever else over taking care of my business. Not literal business, not my literal business, but just taking care of business, you know, which in this case was living my life responsibly, finishing my schoolwork, right, and not just living like a degenerate. This is all I really needed to be doing, but I wasn't doing it. Instead, I was like smoking weed and gaming, and I've talked before about how, like, on a subconscious level, your soul always sort of knows if you're on the right path or not. And as much as I wanted to just ignore things, as much as I wanted to just simply put my head in the sand and ignore the fact that my grades were terrible, way worse than they could have been if I applied myself, my parents and the people around me, the people responsible for taking care of me were becoming stressed out because of this. As much as I wanted to just ignore this stuff, and I mostly did, right, to my detriment, it was always in the back of my mind. It was always apparent that something just kind of didn't feel right anymore. I couldn't just ignore the responsibilities of life and just keep playing games. You see, back when I was younger, back before high school, before, you know, you really needed to start thinking about the future a bit more, when I was like a really young kid, it felt like I really just had zero responsibilities. And this was the best time ever for gaming, right? Because I really didn't ever feel like there was anything else that I needed to be doing. I just wanted to game, and you know what? I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all those moments gaming, you know, with Jak and Daxter and all the Mega Man games I played, and just all this stuff where back before I was a little bit older, when you just didn't have that responsibility, you could just lose yourself in these worlds and not think about anything else. But there came a certain age around those high school years, like I was saying, where I just started to feel like I continued gaming because I just didn't want to let it go. I felt like I would lose something if I started to give up gaming, if I started to miss some of these big, cool, exciting releases. I felt like I needed to play everything, right? I'm a gamer, right? It's part of my identity. And even though I started lifting weights, which sort of was like the next big life-changing thing for me, I still held on to this older version of myself so tightly as like this devoted gamer, and I didn't want to let it go. And I think that really did a lot of damage to my life, I would say. This sort of resistance to simply letting go of an earlier version of myself. Perhaps not completely, right? Because I still am gaming. I'm still playing. Look at me. I'm playing Elden Ring right now. I still play this and that, but I'm still playing Armored Core. I'm playing the new Resident Evil, but maybe letting go to the degree where I could allow other things in life to become a priority for me. And this is really starting to get to the point of the video here, which is that at a certain, likely around that sort of high school, post-puberty age, sort of late high school, you're going to realize that you're getting a little older and you're going to start to want new and different things from life. Even if the old version of yourself doesn't really want to accept it, you're going to start to want to be more socially adept. You're going to start to want to get some girls, right? You're going to want to go out and do this and sort of begin to experience a more independent life than the life you had as a kid, where you really didn't have any of these desires and you didn't really have the ability to take on these new responsibilities and start to be an adult. So I think a big part of this phenomenon of why games aren't as fun anymore is not that they're literally not as fun anymore, but that somewhere in your mind that the time you're spending playing these games is probably not time that is being spent responsibly. Especially as you begin to get older, if you really want to survive and thrive, especially now in the world the way it is now, you're going to have to start to figure out how to be a hard worker and how to be making smart and tactical use of your time. You're simply just not going to feel good. You're not going to feel like you're being true to yourself if you desire a certain life or a certain amount of money and instead you're spending that time and energy on video games. You see what I'm saying here? I think there's truly a small amount of people out there who can play video games for hours a day and say honestly and look themselves in the mirror that this is really the life I want. If you ask those people who are playing these games all day, but they say that like games aren't as fun as they used to be, like, would you rather be this gamer that you are now, or would you rather be rich and in shape and doing a lot of things in real life? I bet deep down a lot of them would desire to be rich and in shape and living a more full, real life. I know this is like a little all over the place, but I can only tell you the experiences that I've had personally, right? If you look at my videos, they are all from a fairly personal place. And what's going on with me personally is that this sort of thing is happening, right? This lifestyle of just playing games alone is just not doing it for me anymore. And I have to be honest about that. Video games, no matter how good they are, for the most part, aren't doing it for me anymore. And the reason they aren't doing it for me anymore is because the other parts of my life aren't exactly where I want them. I haven't conquered all the things I want to conquer. Not even close. I want money. I want the nice clothes. I want agency over my life. I don't want to have to work for someone else. I don't want to worry about money. I want to be able to like buy the things I want, buy nice food, get nourishing meals, right? I want more freedom. And when you get older, you start to think about this stuff more. And when you just sit around playing games all day, you're not going to get that. And if you're a man, truly a man, even though, you've been conditioned by society to believe it's okay to just be a loner, gamer, out of shape guy working at the hardware store, working at Wendy's, whatever, and just to be a loser. I bet you're actually really not happy with that either. I bet deep down you want the things that I've just spoken about here. I bet you want money and women and independence, and I bet that games and all this time spent playing games is just a substitute for your lack of that. I mean, like, what are we doing in games anyway? We're growing our power. We're growing our status. We're getting the money. We're getting the cars. We're getting the cool sword. We're getting the armor. We're getting the respect, the women, the freedom, right? You actually want it in real life. Have you ever thought about that? The reason you like to pretend so much to be a badass in all these different games is because you want to actually be that badass. There's a deep part of you that actually wants that for yourself. If you didn't want to be that guy, you wouldn't want to play the games that sort of gave you that fantasy. I guess maybe not always. I guess maybe you don't really want to be like a guy that drives around and shoots people and stuff. But even in the GTA games, it's sort of like that power trip. You want that power, right? So this is my answer to why games aren't as fun anymore, and that is that your subconscious mind, your soul, is screaming out to you, asking you, what the hell are you doing with your life? Where is the real power? Where is the real girls? Where is the real money? Why is this all fake? Why is this all virtual? What have you done? You're ruining your life. You one little spark of existence, your one life here that, thousands of years your ancestors were fighting and killing animals and warring to survive and going through all this hard stuff just to get you here, and you opt to spend your life just lazing about in these virtual worlds. I know it's frustrating to hear this. I've been there too, but the reason we're not finding games as fun as we used to when we were kids and had no responsibilities is because we are no longer kids with no responsibilities. We are adults now. You can't make immature, poor decisions and not feel guilt about it. All the fun that the game is offering you is beginning to become overshadowed by the fact that your life is far from where you want it to be. You need to start playing the game of life. You need to act like the game just started. It just started now, right? Life is probably literally a game anyway, but pretend it is definitely a game. You wake up, you're Justin, whatever, 25, kind of overweight, you're working at Wendy's, no friends, no fun, no girls, no money. You got to start playing the real game, the game of life. How do you go from who you are now, level 1, level 0, peon, to level 800 badass? Like, what do you have to do in this real life? When you think about like a game or whatever, the best games are the ones that are like immersive and indistinguishable from reality. So like, who's to say that this life isn't actually some sort of game, right? Oh, but the system, it's rigged against me, you're going to say, right? It's like, okay, good. Have fun being a loser forever. Like, guess what? It's rigged against all of us. Everyone that's made something of themselves from nothing has beat the system. So why can't you? It's a cope. It's just your way out to say that it's rigged against you. As you can say that, and then you don't have to do anything, right? It was rigged against all the heroes in those video games you love. But that was the point of the game. That was what made you love it so much, is that they did it anyway. They found a way to make things happen against all odds. They overcame the rigged system, right? That was part of the game. That was part of the story. Why don't you just adopt the mind frame that that's a part of your game as well? Yeah, it sucks. Your dad was a deadbeat. It sucks your mom didn't come around very much. But that's your character. That's your backstory, right? You have to find a way to make it work. A lot of people are just rolling over. And I say that if you were to watch a movie or play a game where the main character had like some things go wrong or some bad things happen to him or a few hardships and they just rolled over, you'd be like, what the hell is this? This game sucks. Batman's parents die and he just gets on antidepressants and he never becomes Batman. Are you going to like watch that movie or read that story? It's lame. Why aren't you making your life into some sort of video game or some sort of art, some sort of like story, right? That's part of the reason I made this channel, because I like to somehow turn my love of gaming and media and this stuff into something that's sort of a more productive thing. Like now, if I want to game, at least I can stream it and then talk to you guys sometimes and use that time as a way to do something productive. And maybe I'll play a game here or there, and it's gonna be a time spent alone, but it's got to absolutely be something that I really think is going to just truly add something to my life, truly give me some enjoyment, truly give me an experience that I can get something out of. I thought about this too, which is that if you want games to become enjoyable again, you need to get back to a place almost like when you were a kid, where you can play games without this guilt that you're putting other things off. So that's just another reason to want to get your life and your money in order. Am I right? I bet if you weren't worried about money at all and these responsibilities that you're putting off, if you had some like bag stacked away and you were kind of good on that front, I bet you would start enjoying video games again. I bet you would start enjoying a lot of things again the way you used to as a kid. But these responsibilities came along, these duties came along, and a lot of people are just putting them off. If your life is in disarray, if there's a state you want your life to be in that it's not in, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and stressing and things aren't where you want them to be, man, you better put the games down and start playing the game of life. So that's it. This is the real reason why video games aren't as fun anymore. When I look around at the average person, hell, even when I look at myself sometimes, I see that there's work to be done. And I don't think we can really, in our deep soul, just enjoy sitting back, kicking back, playing games, putting our feet up, when we know in our hearts that there is work to be done. Be true to yourself. Be true to your desires. Start playing the game of life. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Share the video with someone you think needs to hear it. And please leave a comment. I want to know, what are your thoughts on the matter? Did this resonate with you? Can you relate to what I said here? Let me know. And if you could, please follow me on X. The link is in the description. I'm most active on the internet on YouTube and X. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. I want to grow my profile over there, so that the experience is more fun. And if anything happens to me on YouTube because I am speaking my mind too clearly, well, then you can also stay connected with me over there. So that's going to be it, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching. It was good to speak to you all again, and I'll talk to you all later. Adios. Bye-bye.